everyone, Michelle here from the Creative Cove. Thanks for joining me. It is bright and early here this morning, but I wanted to film something I tried last night. I wanted to try watercolor paints on just old book pages that I have, and I have a lot of book pages because I recycle the covers, and I do use the papers, but sometimes you get a huge collection of books like this that you need to use up. So I thought, let's play with some watercolor on there, and I was in a Christmas mood, and so I thought, oh, I'll paint something Christmassy, and I've always loved the Grinch, and I love the colors of the Grinch. So I painted that just for fun, and then I was playing with some landscape ideas, just some washes for some fun as well, for more journal size. So I thought we would do something like that today. I also did a little ornament. It's still drying. I just did this one this morning to play. So you can use these for just about anything. You know, it's just a fun way to practice too. Though I would say that depending on the paper you have, you want something that won't dissolve. The ink doesn't dissolve when it gets wet. And also this will react a lot differently than watercolor paper because it will absorb extra fast. So in order, it absorbing faster means it also dries faster. So you kind of have to bear that in mind as well. So what I think I'm going to do is maybe do two landscapes here. One thing to note as well, which I learned as I was doing this, was pick a book that is got some nice words in it. I'm just having a quick look here, making sure there's nothing. This is an old dictionary. Just want to make sure there's nothing nasty in there. I was using the law book, this old law book that I got free. And of course it has some ugly words in it. And I was painting along and realized I can't use that in a journal. It's got some bad words, not like swear words, but unpleasant words. And I realized I don't want to put that in my journal. I am using my Paul Rubens paint here. It is a really nice paint. It's an expensive paint, so it's not, I wouldn't recommend it for like a really time-consuming, detailed project, because I can't say that the quality of the paint would last a long time. You know, I can't test that, but it's got some beautiful pigments to it, and it's perfect for these kind of projects. So I'm not going to go through the color palette. I'm just going to pick colors and just have a play. So I think actually I want to do something kind of a soft pinky sky here, kind of an orangey pink. Let's put a little bit more red in that. And just have some fun playing with watercolors and landscapes. I'm going to do a little bit of a wash here. And of course it will dry lighter than the color that originally goes down. But it's just a really fun, loose approach to watercolor, you know, just kind of visualize maybe a scene that you saw once hiking or camping or something and throw those colors in. It's a fun way also to experiment with color combinations. So I'm going to keep the colors pretty light in the sky, and then I'm going to drop down to a deeper green with a little bit of Payne's gray in there, and we'll do some landscape. So I'm just going to go down on an angle, I think, on this one. And of course you can manipulate these even further with pen and paper, pen and ink after, markers, whatever you have. I'll go straight across on this one. I'm going to go a little thicker on the saturation of color. Just kind of do a field of green maybe. And again, if these don't work to your liking, you just rip them up and use them in some collage or something. So a nice inexpensive way to play. Now if you don't have watercolors and you only have acrylics, you can water down your acrylics. No harm there. And just, or gouache. Gouache is expensive, but it's really fun to play with. I miss having gouache. I should really buy some again. I haven't used it in a long time, and I love it because it's got the nature of acrylic and watercolor all put into one paint. Let's pop it with a bit of yellow maybe in the sky. Just for fun, and maybe a little yellow in the grass. All right, so now I'm going to take some darker green. Let's try this green. And I'm just going to drop it in places, kind of create some interest in the landscape here. And let the paint decide what it wants to do as it pools and dries. I think I'll do something a little bit more interesting on this landscape in the back of this one. It's a little bit boring. Maybe we'll add a little bit of blue into it too, see what that does. So I'm no watercolor expert. I'm purely at the experimental stage of watercolor. I have much to learn about it, but I do really enjoy using it. So I'm gonna take some color off in a few places. So drying off my brush and just kind of sweeping it through and pushing pressure and see if that adds any interest at all. Creates these little ranges kind of thing, you know, and some tonal changes. And then we can let that dry. So normally I would let it dry and then just keep going in this book. So let me see if I can find another book real quick here. What have I got over here? Microscope. Okay, let's try a page out of this. See if the ink works on this one. So I'm just going to put this to the side because I don't want to rip it out of the book. I like painting on the book. Okay, photographs that reveal the micro world. Okay, so that can probably stay. Let's fold this in half. And we'll work with the writing going vertical this time. I'm going to get rid of the extra edging. So we'll use that side on that one. And I'll fold that in half. And we'll just tear this off just because I want the writing in the background. Oops. Okay. So what do we want to paint? That's probably the biggest challenge, is what do we want to paint? I think we'll just do something simple like some greenery, some botanical. Nothing too elaborate. So I'm just mixing some green here. And we'll just pop down some shapes. I think I'm going to add a teeny bit of Payne's Gray to that, darken it up a little bit. Just pull that down. We did a little video on painting some botanicals the other day. So this time I'm painting right on the book page. So far this ink is working. It's not bleeding, which is good. Okay, let's add a little bit of yellowy green. And put some yellow and some pale green together. Drop that in a little bit. Maybe do another leaf behind. And like I said, some pages will dry faster and some pages will take a little longer to absorb the paint and water, depending, I suppose, what chemical is in the paint paper if it's made with a synthetic type paper or a synthetic chemical mixed in with the paper like a binder, or if it is just plain old cotton paper like an old book. So you can get different effects from different books. Okay, and then maybe do something blue on there. Just drop a little blue in, see how we feel about that. So this has a nice bold print to this font. So it's standing right out, when a small thin font might be a little bit more subtle, so you can get a different look that way. Let's add a little warmth, some ochre. I love yellow, I love ochre. It's a nice little range of color here. I'll let that dry. I'll go with this one. So let's do maybe some pine. I'm going to start, so you can make little Christmas cards out of this. So this brush might be a little bit too thick for pine, but we'll make it work. And I'm using a number 8 round watercolor brush. So you want to make sure you pull in from this side and pull in from this side, because if you pull in from this side and push out from this side, you'll get a different line, so it won't be consistent. And then do some on different angles, because there is some pine growing towards you as well, which would be on a sharper angle. Let's put in some blue. So I'm keeping these pretty fast and simple. I'm not getting into a lot of detail, obviously. Let's just absorb that off. A little bit of that brighter yellow going in, just a little. So I don't want it to completely bleed all together now and lose all the texture. And then we'll go into a brown and drop some of that in the stem as well, just in a few spots. Maybe a couple of sprigs of brown. So you can see it's very busy because the type of font behind it makes the whole thing very busy, and the painting very subtle, but it's got a nice little effect to it, I think. Let's see if we can do a pine cone real fast here. So obviously not a realistic pine cone, just kind of implying the shape of a pine cone. And then we can put a little bit of contrast in that, adding a little darker brown in between here. Oops, need a little water. And you can pull out even more detail in the pine cone with a pen after, which is usually what I like to do. Kind of pop some details in there. That's always fun. Put that pine cone right behind. Something simple like that. And of course you can go even further by taking off a little bit of the color on the edge of the pine cone. So the light's hitting the top corners of these little segments. All depending how much effort and time you want to put into things. But even this little trick of absorbing it back up, again, will only work on certain papers because some will absorb very quickly. So this one is not absorbing as fast as the first book we used. You can have something fun like splatters. Or you can even create a little bit of interest in the background by making things bleed a little, softening it up. I'll just let that dry. So if I want this guy to bleed a little, I'll add a little background around him. Soften that edge. So this one here, I really like the harsh edge of that, but I like the combination of washed out and popped forward, if that makes sense at all. Just having fun. Have fun with it. That's the whole point. Okay, we'll let those dry for a minute. See if our landscapes are dry. I mean, you can just use this as a sketchbook, you know, just keep going and going. So they're a little damp, but I think they're dry enough to proceed. So now what do we want to do? Do we want to create an interesting foreground here? Let's try it on the bottom one here. So I'm just going to mix some blues and greens. See what colors we get. I think I'm going to grab a little bit of that messy brown I had and just play here. So I think what we'll do is maybe put a couple of pine trees in the foreground. And I'm just going to let the brush do the work. So I'm just dabbing back and forth, working my way down that Christmas tree shape. And then I think I'll go right into a little hill here that it's growing out of. Let me make sure that is in camera. There we go. Painting and you can't even see. Darken that up a little bit. Okay, and maybe another guy right here. We did trees not too long ago, little semi-abstract trees. I'll try and remember to put my watercolor list, playlist in the description so that you guys can have a look at other things to paint. And I think this would be a really cute cover for a Christmas card, you know, something quite simple, but hand painted and interesting. I think I'm going to pop some more pink over here. Let's see if I can make a decent pink. Just kind of warm it up a little bit. I don't want it too bright, but I feel like it needs a little something. I'll go with a, like more of a orangey yellow. I feel like it needs a pop of color. Kind of a sunset or a sunrise. And just take my brush and just kind of bleed it out. I like that better. I feel like it was kind of boring. I need to add a little bit of that yellow to the foreground as well. You can even add a tiny bit of yellow in the trees. So you can see this one's much more subtle. I mean, the subject matter is different, but you can see by the bold print compared to a more subtle print, the effects you can get. Okay, let's do something maybe softer here. So it's not quite such a bold, it's more of a soft landscape. So I think we'll go dark here, kind of in a little mountain range way off in the distance. Make this one a little bit more atmospheric. Atmospheric. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. When I was visiting Scotland a couple of years ago, I'm not a good photographer, unfortunately, and I couldn't capture what I could see. But talk about atmospheric landscape when you're up in the Highlands. It was just so stunning. There's something moving about it. I was just in awe. I got off the tour bus because I took a little tour bus with my girlfriend and we had a great time. I love Scotland. I love the UK. And we just got off the bus and of course you could see things through the window, but you get out and you breathe the air and I just stood there in awe of the beauty that I was surrounded in. It was so fabulous. I highly recommend visiting Scotland and all of the UK. I haven't done Wales yet. I'd love to see Wales. That was where my mom was born. So I would just absolutely love to see it. It looks so stunning. Just every time I see pictures of Wales, I'm blown away. So that's on my list. Would love to see it. And yeah, I would highly recommend a trip to the UK. So much fun. Okay, then maybe we'll put, I feel like we're going a bit dark, so maybe we'll put some thicker paint. And we'll do kind of like some shrubbery or something in the foreground here. What's wrong, Millie? She's shuffling. She's underneath my desk. If you hear some strange noise, that's Mildred. What's nice too about using something a little bit more opaque is it subdues the writing even more and pops things forward, which is kind of nice. I wonder if we should do something in here, a nice pink kind of sunset or sunrise, more like a sunset because I'm not a morning person. I don't often see the sunrise. And even if the green bleeds up, that's okay because it just kind of looks like shrubbery, big shrubbery in the background there. Totally fine. It's almost fun to experiment with that too, right? Just throw it in there and see what happens. I'll have a little reflection of the skylight coming into the landscape. Hazy kind of vibe. Can again take off some paint. Just really have fun experimenting. I hope this gives you some inspiration to try it. I think that's good. I like that. I think it's a really nice little landscape. And again, you can draw details. You can put a little house in. You could do whatever you want. Okay, so I'm going to leave those to dry. And let's see if the other ones are dry. And we can sketch on them maybe, or dry. I'm going to wipe this off while it's wet because it's something I always forget to do. Yeah, this Tall Ribbons is a cute little set with that palette. It's, I don't know if you can see the logo there. It's pretty subtle. Where's the box? I did a product review on this before. So they're nice, affordable paints. You know, they come in a nice little box and a kit. So I'll try and remember to link the product below. I'm notorious for promising and not delivering. Oh, here's another one I did. I don't know if I showed you that. So this was a sketch on that law book. So if there's bad words in there, I apologize. But, and then I went over it with a Posca pen for a little bit of snow. So I think that would make a really cute little focal point on a Christmas card as well. So let's see how you can see how the color softens as it dries. So you can pop some detail now with your little pens, whatever pens you have. This happens to be a micron, archival ink, 0.3. So I do sketch with these a lot. I'm actually running low. I think this is my last one. But this is a nice little pen for really popping some little details here. Just kind of helps separate it from the background, you know, because it gets a little lost with all that font. So now you can draw your segments in. And I do have a video tutorial on how to draw a pine cone that has a lot more detail in it than this quick little sketch here. And, you know, this is just a rough drawing. And of course you can add gold if you're into the metallics. So it's kind of a mixed media today, really. But the point is to use this really pretty, simple paper that if you're a journaler like me, you'll have tons of. Something like that's really cute. And then you can always, you know, put it on piece here. You can ink it, turn it into a card, and do whatever you want. Same with this. Tone it down a little. Let's play with this one. This one's still a bit wet. So this one you can really make bolder. I don't like to outline every single bit either. I just pull a couple lines. So this is kind of bled out, so I'm gonna leave that. I don't want to kind of define the part that's bled. I might be put the top on so that your eyes complete the shape, right? Like an implied line type thing. Put some weight on the bottom. So this one's bled too, which I like. And you don't have to do this part at all. Maybe you're just really happy with your watercolor. I always want to add some sketching to my watercolors. It's just the look I like. So that's something a little different, simple, fun to glue into a journal. And we'll do this one. These are still a bit wet, so I'll leave that for a second. Let's go to this one. So you can, you know, customize this if you've got nice handwriting on a cover. You can also give it some highlight maybe. Just a little highlight on the ball. So this I just drew a circle. I traced something. It wasn't that, but I traced something, and that's how I got my circle, because I can't paint a circle. I can't draw a circle perfect, I mean. So you can just write something in there if you're sending it to someone. So my last name is Sharp. So you can see my handwriting is not very nice. But if you have nice handwriting, go for it. And that's kind of fun for a cover of a Christmas card. Something very different as far as the medium it's painted on, or at least new to me. I mean, you can do things in the background, little stars. Again, pay attention to the paper. The dangerous offenders, like, that is not something you want to put on a Christmas card. So yeah, I highly recommend you pay attention to the book you're using and don't do what I do. So this is just for demonstration purposes at this point. So there you go. There's that's something you could do too for a card. So this is the same procedure I did for this, using a different paper. This was actually part of the law book, but this is the, I guess the legend or something. So there's no nasty words in this. And I did the same thing. I just washed the landscape, and then when it dried, I threw in a tree. And I did the same with this one, only I used blues and warm colors. So cool and warm, and two different kind of trees. So a pine tree and a eastern pine. I don't know what kind of pine this is. Jack pine maybe. And I kind of like the softness of this, so I don't want to add any ink to these. At least to this one anyways. I quite like it. I mean, you could try, say, like a colored pen. I wasn't going to do anything, but you could try playing with some textures in the distance, popping some texture in the tree. But I do like the wash of the tree, so I'm going to leave it. And same with this one, I quite like it. And you could use some little scribbles in the background if you want. But I really kind of like the way it looks as I scribble on it. But yeah, just little mini sketches with your watercolor watercolor paint. I can't talk early in the morning. I don't know why I filmed this early in the morning. and just play. So these are pretty dry now. I think I will doodle them. And then just keep using this as a little sketchbook for watercolor paint. So here I would probably pull out a little more detail in the landscape in the front. Just something subtle. This is a great way too to loosen up on your mark making. People really struggle with mark making because people tend to overthink a little bit too much. But the idea is not to think. The idea is just to make marks. Because most of them, especially if you're doing mixed media or abstract work, get covered up. And just a little bit of them poke through. So we could do little nubs of grass here. So real soft landscape over here. You can get pastels on this. You know, you could do just about anything really. Put a little bird, a couple little birds flying in the sky, little cloud formations. And then you could go into, say, soften it up with a little Posca pen and just rub some soft whites in there. I don't want it to look like snow, but maybe I want to pop a little bit of a light coming down off that sky onto the horizon line. Just soften it right up. So very subtle, but kind of pretty, right? I mean, you could frame that if you wanted to. I'm going to leave it in my sketchbook just for some fun. What else have I got to play with here? I don't really have a lot of materials out. I have this pencil kicking around. It's Autumn Leaves, number 62. Could maybe rub some warm color in here so it doesn't shake my camera too much. It doesn't really show up. Okay, so that doesn't work. Maybe we'll use the Posca in here. I could turn this into a snow scene. Just rub some snow on the trees. So now you got a winter scene. Just gonna pop that down. Again, I like to soften it out with my finger. I'm gonna use a brush, of course. So the cold white snow is a nice contrast to the warm sky. A little snow in the background, a little snow on the hills. I mean, you could really have fun building up mountains here if you wanted to. Some distant landscape over here. Just keep going and going. Gonna wash out a lot of that green because it's snowy now, but that kind of bleeds through and creates this really nice softness, which I do love using the Posca pen over watercolor. Now this paper's starting to break down a little bit when I rub it with the Posca pen, so I do have to be kind of careful with that. So the idea is not to cover the whole tree. You want the contrast from the tree to pop through. So I've gone a little bit light there. So you can, of course, go back to your watercolors, which I'll do real quick, and maybe put a little bit of that dark green back in. Again, experimenting, giving it a try. Can I do it? Will it let me do it? Will the color react different? Will the Posca pen dye another color? And that is the beauty of experimenting with the materials that you have. Just a little contrast. so we don't lose the shape of the tree in the background. We still want it covered with snow though, so it kind of pulls them forward a little bit. Maybe a little bit of grass poking out. And you can just keep going and going. Contrast in the mountains maybe. And I really love this warm yellow, so I think I'm going to bring a smidge of that back down in here, just for some fun. And because we can. You know, we don't have to paint exactly what we see outside. We interpret it the way we want to. There we go. Just a little landscape. Wipe this off. So fun. At least I think it's fun. And again, you can use any book you got and just have fun creating these little mini landscapes, little subject matters. And then they're ready to go in a journal, or, you know, if you fall in love with one, you can put it in a frame. So I hope that gives you some ideas to play with your watercolors some more. And have a great day. That's it. Bye, guys.